Powered by Red Media in partnership with TSN. It is season 6 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, and it is presented by our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey. As we know, it is whiskey season. It's always whiskey season. Have you tried the Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof? Full-bodied whiskey has the aromas of caramel, toffee, spicy vanilla. You're going to get some rich oak in there and a butterscotch finish that is oh so smooth. So, you're at home. I'm not sure, is that the home office? Are you in the basement? Are you locked away from Ollie and the family, just getting settled for the day?
Here's it, Dregs. I've had enough. I put my foot down after like 9 years in this house. And I said, can I use the office, please, if that's okay? And so, yeah, I didn't really put my foot down. But I'm like, God damn, I'm tired of being in the basement in the spare bedroom. And so now I gotta put it together like the Dreger setup, you know, with the like you've got all professional stuff there. I can see that everything that you do in that office is professional. Like, you know, like the your setup, the way you got things situated, the mic, the whole bit.
Yeah,
I like it. You're a pro.
Well, hold on. You want to see I MacGyvered a mic stand because
I'd like to see
Ryan
that.
Rashad. Yeah, he insisted that I get a new microphone, which I did. Fancy new microphone here, Ray. And I was too cheap to spend the money on a mic stand. So I've got a yellow oak custom made desk, which I'm not going to show. I got stuff all over, but I will show the mic stand that I MacGyvered on the weekend. You ready for this?
I like it. Oh, that's not. But wait a minute. What does Holly put the salad in?
Oh, wait. Yeah,
I mean,
come on. Who's kidding?
What does she put the salad in?
I actually, I went to HomeSense.
You went and bought that?
I did. It was like $3.99. I felt like I was getting ripped off, but I knew what I was going to use it for. So there you go. It's not bad.
Who am I kidding? I'm going to have something the same here. I'm going to have it propped up on 8 books and whatever, you know.
Hey, you got to work with what you've got. Right? Yeah. We're professionals, but just every once in a while, there has to be an improvisation. Hey, we've got Sheldon Keefe, head coach of the New Jersey Devils, is going to join us. He's committed to Friday morning will be the next episode of Ray and Dregs.
Nice.
We record here on Tuesday. When's the last time, like you do a fair amount of New Jersey Devils games. What's your impression of Sheldon, not as a coach? I mean, he was a good coach in Toronto, and he's probably a better coach now in his second stint. But in your pre-broadcast meetings with Sheldon Keefe in New Jersey versus the time that you spent around him in Toronto, is there much difference or just the same guy?
I would say half a step back stress-wise.
Nice.
Right. Like he just, you know, we had a game earlier in the year, and we finished, and you know, I've known Sheldon now for some time through the Leafs, and it was really apparent to me how he gave us like the time we needed. He wasn't getting pulled and tugged and pushed in a different direction, and the people I was with said, "Wow, it was really like it was an easy chat," you know, like and it's early in the year, of course, so coaches are under less stress, but I just think New Jersey is. Whenever you get a guy on a second rip, man, they've had all those years to learn. And whatever, if you don't learn, then you never get a second chance. But Sheldon's a good coach. He's hard. I think what he's learned is directness.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is like, I always go back to Dregs. Remember he half-assed criticized the core four one time. And then the next day he went back and he took it back. Like, there's no need to take it back.
No.
But you know, he was under enormous pressure everywhere he turned. And so I just think like, this is what we are. This is what we're trying to be. His GM, and you know him well too, Tommy Fitzgerald, like there's no tiptoeing around the edges with Fitz either.
No.
Right? Like I think they're a really good team, and that's a good team. They're well coached. I just think it's a really good fit for them.
So yes, Sheldon Keefe of the Devils will join us on Friday on Ray and Dregs. And by the way, for those watching on YouTube, check it out. I mean, you don't have to be watching on YouTube, but for sure, I'm bringing up the scrap, the infamous fight Might have been the fight of the decade between Ray Ferraro and Sheldon Keefe back in, where was he? In Tampa Bay, I guess, right?
He was in
Or was
Tampa
it
Bay. I was in Atlanta.
okay.
I would say it was 2002, and I think he was probably
Okay.
embarrassed to be
So
throwing
save
around
it,
an old
save it,
man.
save it, save it.
Uh,
I don't want your
what?
explanation now. You can have it with Sheldon on. I'm just teeing it up because I want people who listen to our podcast to Google the fight and be ready for the discussion of said fight.
I'm going to say this early. I don't know if Sheldon fought a lot. I know I didn't, and you're going to
Yeah.
see in that fight why I did not fight a lot. I think you'll see.
Yeah, but you were game. You were game. You were there.
I probably said something. I don't know.
And the mitts weren't they weren't stitched to your hands. You got them off. It was all good. All right, man. We got for so few games, Ray, and I'm talking about Monday night. A lot going on in the National Hockey League, and a lot of speculation around the NHL as well. So we're going to get into all of that in headlines. Brought to you by Tim Hortons. The Tim's NHL Hockey Challenge is back in the Tim Hortons app. Daily and monthly prizes available, including the season-end grand prize, a 2025 Hyundai Tucson. All you have to do is pick your players that you think are going to score by using the app every game day. Get it right, and you're going to win. Eventually, you're going to win. It's easy, it's free, and best of all, it's fun to play. Speaking of fun ones, that Edmonton, Florida game, it's an oversell to call it the rematch, right? We're not going all the way back to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final between the Panthers and the Oilers, but it does also matter because you again want to look back at your game versus the best in the league, and until the Florida Panthers are out of the playoff picture, which isn't going to be for a while, they are the defending Stanley Cup champions. So Florida comes into Edmonton, shut out Vancouver, shut out against the Calgary Flames, 11 goals on Monday night in this one. So the Stars showed up between the Oilers and the Florida Panthers, but another tough loss for the Oil. And why don't we start at the beginning, right? I mean, Evan Bouchard getting kicked in the shins every which way after this game. I would say deservedly so, especially the way it started on the power play. He stumbles, he bumbles, he falls on the blue line. Boquist goes back the other way, scores a shorty, and takes the air out of the building, really, to give the Florida Panthers a 1-0 lead. So start there, and then we'll move on to some of the rest of it.
One of our coaches in Atlanta, Jay Leach, used to call it a slippery game played on ice. And that was Evan Bouchard's night last night. I mean, it's amazing when things start bad. Sometimes you can rebound. Like, you do need a good play, not a great play, but a good, solid play pretty shortly thereafter. And you kind of go, okay, I screwed up early, and happens, and you can move on. But when the next couple of touches, the thing's a grenade off your stick, honestly, I'll see for me, like, you get this feeling like I hope I could just get out of a couple of shifts here without any more damage.
Yeah.
Except the puck keeps coming to you on those nights. You're running away. It's like a cartoon. You're trying to get away from it because the night started so bad, and it just keeps coming and blowing up on your stick. And if you look at that game last night, I always refer this. He was in the movie way too many times.
Yeah.
Like even the one where
is that an old Al Harbor, by the way?
Stay out of the fucking movie. and so when Ekholm falls down, okay, so now you got to defend. You're in total defend mode. He got turned around and flipped around. Like, I would say last night was a pretty good indication, going back to the Four Nations, of why Bouchard wasn't selected and why Zach Hyman probably should have been. Zach Hyman's going to score 20 goals by February.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to be like, well, 20, he might get more than that. I mean, I don't know, like it was almost like when the Oilers sucked at the beginning of last year and their power play was so bad. Eventually, you knew that was going to get sorted. Zach Hyman wasn't going to have 6 goals in 40 games. It just wasn't going to happen. And now he's back to, the pace he was, it seemed like, last year. And he should have been on that team for a number of reasons. He should have been on that team.
Yeah, I'm with you. And look, there's a good chance he will be. And if he isn't, and he does what you say he's likely going to do, I mean, an eventful game for him. 2 goals against the Panthers, a puck in the face,
Ugh.
which did some damage. He comes back after that occurrence in the second, comes back in the third. If he doesn't make that roster because of injury, and it has everything that you believe he will, and I agree with you, McDavid's going to look at that coaching staff, John Cooper and the group, and go, "I told you so." I mean, I
Yeah.
told you this was coming. You can get
Here's
that
the thing
sense,
too.
right?
Well, but Dregs, don't you think like even if Hyman isn't scoring at the rate that of last year or the rate now, in a former life, he was an
Yeah,
excellent penalty killer.
yeah.
He takes
Goes to the
zero
hard
air.
areas.
Yeah, but he
Yeah,
takes zero air in the room. When you have a short tournament, if and you have all these great star players, they generally have lots of ego, and I think they go together. Like you can't be a great player without some ego, right? You have to say, "I want it, I want it, I need more."
hmm,
And Hyman you could fit him on a fourth line, you could fit him on your first line, you could I don't know, he's such a
everywhere.
versatile player. I think he's just a 11 out of 10 as a guy. I would have him. I would have him on my team for sure.
Okay, let's wrap up. Just the final takeaway on that
Mm.
game, Florida and Edmonton. And as I said, the stars were there. Kachuk,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Draghi with I mean, they were all there. I mean,
Mm.
McDavid has 3 points, Leon with a goal and an assist. However, it kind of jumps off the score sheet, right? Edmonton is leading 4-2 midway through the hockey game, and they end up losing 6-5.
Right.
So is it credit, well, hold on. Credit to the Florida Panthers for finding a way to
Sure.
be patient,
Yeah.
claw their way back, or in a game like that, can you envision a playoff series where you got to find a way to lock down that 2-goal lead halfway through?
Okay, I'll tell you what I envision. I envision the 6 guys on the blue line for the Oilers will look nothing like that in March.
Fair.
And
Fair.
and so um, I think it was an illustration of 2 things. One is that you can look at a team right now and you can imagine what the moves are that the management would like to make. They would
Sure. Yeah.
like the Oilers came into the season. They got Ty Emberson in the CC deal, and I think he's been pretty good. He
Yep.
started poorly, and I think he's growing. He's a young guy. Troy Stetcher gives you everything that he's got every night, and I think they would like to get closer to the size of the blue line that they had last year in the finals. So
Yeah.
I think that's the first thing that with that lead, I thought like that it's just not the same defensive team as they
Okay.
were. The second thing is last year in game 7, if we're talking about these as bookends, it was 2-1. And you
Mm.
couldn't skate 5 feet without running into 3 guys on the other team, both teams.
Yeah.
And last night, once that game opened up, look out. It was a track meet. And at the end of the day, and it's legit because it was the last shift of the game, Florida got one more save than Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
And 6-5, man. I sign up to watch that all the time.
Oh, such a good game
awesome.
to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, Oilers fans probably didn't love it, obviously, based on the outcome, giving up the lead and all
Right.
that. But
Sure.
entertainment value, man. You paid top dollar in Edmonton, and it was worth it there. Okay, let's get into the Vancouver Canucks now. And before we get into the mud, and I'm talking about, some of the wild speculation around the Canucks, around the Buffalo Sabres. I want to give Kiefer Sherwood a little love here. Good old Kiefer Sherwood, right? All the offense that the Vancouver Canucks needed came from Sherwood. His first NHL hat trick. What is he? 29 years old, right?
Yep.
Undrafted dude. And he's been around. Just tell not Canucks fans because they probably know enough of Kiefer Sherwood, but all the hockey fans that follow us. I mean, what should they know about this guy? Was it just one of those games where, opportunity and everything he touched was either going at the net or in?
Well, yeah, but they were nice finish, right? Like he made a good play on each of the goals. Sure, the third one was into the empty net. But so we had him on after hours on Saturday. And he is like, he's got this energy about him, right? And he's got 185 hits on the year, so you can imagine he's got lots of energy. He likes to run into things. But when Wayne Gretzky got traded to LA, there was 20 years later, there was an explosion of players coming out of California, right? And that you can directly correlate Gretz's entry into California and these young players growing up in the game. When Kiefer Sherwood was 5, the Columbus Blue Jackets became a team. He was in the prime age to pick a sport that you were going to love, that kids pick and whatever it is. For him, it was hockey. He was never a standout player. He told, we were talking just a little bit after the After Hours segment with Scott Oak, and
which was terrific, by the way.
Yeah,
that was excellent with Jimmy.
And but he said in the show, he said, look, I just kept telling myself, I tried to manifest it. I kept talking about it, that I was going to be an NHL player. And then eventually I was. So I said to him after, I said, man, when you said that, the great Netflix series Receiver has a player, George Kittle from San Francisco. There's nothing to not love about this guy. And so he talks about manifestation all the time, like talk things into existence. And Sherwood goes, yeah, funny story, I know him. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, yeah, well, he's good friends with Philip Forsberg. And so anyway, he's such an easy guy to cheer for. How about this? You know what the Nashville Predators need? They need a guy like Kiefer Sherwood. Oh, they decided in the offseason not to sign him. And that's how Vancouver got him. They committed all the money and tried to score goals. Funny, when you do that, you don't score any because you miss this. And I'm not saying he's the answer to all their problems, but Vancouver got a hungry, motivated player. And he has been, since the beginning of the year, he's one of the players that has completely outkicked his stature and what they could have possibly expected. He's got 11 goals.
I love it.
It's awesome. He was tremendous last night. And at the other end of the ice, Thatcher Demko was really good. Yeah. Like he was really, and the Canucks needed that after a lousy performance on Saturday against Boston. They got run out of the rink. They needed this. They got challenged by the president. They got challenged by the coach. They challenged each other. And 8 seconds into the game, JT Miller almost scored, and it was like, man, they were on their toes. That was a good win for them.
It was maybe a bit of pressure relief there for sure. So I know you're fired up. You want to talk about this. So let's just get into it. And first of all, I always like to establish what we know, Ray, right? And we know because Jim Rutherford just flat out came out and said it with you and Scott in After Hours, that the Vancouver Canucks feel like, to be a contending team, which they hope to be, they need a top 4 defenseman and a forward, and preferably would be a winger. So now you go to the other side of the league, and you find the Buffalo Sabres, who are winless in 10 going into Montreal tonight as we tape the podcast. So a connection is made in a very speculative manner, I would say, that there could be a fit between the two clubs. Star players from both teams tossed around into the rumor mill. Now, Canuck sources after the fact, because you know what happens, right? It's mentioned in a podcast in a very speculative way. Vancouver media is hungry. National Hockey League media want to feed off this thing. So here we go. But we follow up on it, and based on real good sources in Vancouver and around Buffalo, we find out, no, there's nothing going on. There's nothing with the Canucks, and there's nothing with the Buffalo Sabres. Maybe there will be one day. Based on what we heard from talking on the weekend and what Jimmy said on After Hours, there's an appetite. Maybe there will be a connection. So does Vancouver need to find some help, or does stuff like this just kind of muddy it all up, based on very little information or fact?
Well, I'll start in the Vancouver side. The craziness to it is when specific players are put into a specific deal, and it's nothing but just like a spitball or a shot up in the air. that brings chaos that maybe it doesn't matter, I guess, except if you're the people that are following that think it's fact. Now you start running with something that's not. B, if you're one of the players, it's unsettling for sure. And you can say, oh yeah, rumors are part of it. Yeah, but guessing isn't. Like that, it isn't. And maybe today it doesn't matter anymore. It really doesn't. And it's not specific to hockey. It's in everything. It's in politics. It's in football and baseball and in just about anything that you could say. The other part to this is when there is some. This is just on. And you tell me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah.
When there is something that is so obvious, just my historical recollection. When something is so obvious, Vancouver says they need a couple of players. The Sabres have really stumbled around, and people put them together. When it's so obvious, never happens.
Yeah.
Never happens.
That's true.
It,
Very
it, it
seldom.
always seems to be something that it kind of comes down the outside of the track, and you're like, oh, well, of course that sort of makes sense. And when when people are trying to, it's like they don't know the players to think that this deal could be in the form that it is at this time. It's just not. It's just not. And it's not specific to this. It's happening with the Rangers, where people are trying to trade guys all over the place.
Sure.
And man, we used to do this sitting around, with our friends in high school. Oh, I'd trade this guy for that guy. We didn't know. It's fun, except it doesn't have a national or local platform. It was just
Mm.
us talking at lunch at high school. Canucks said they want to add players. I think it's obvious where they'd like to add them. They'd like a D,
Mhm.
right? They've said that since the beginning of the year. They'd like a winger. They'd also like a few of their guys to play closer towards what their mid game is, not their A game all the time. But Hoglander doesn't have a goal in like 24 or 5 games. Dakota Joshua has really struggled to catch up to the bus a little bit after missing, having surgery and his cancer diagnosis and all that in the summer. I mean, I can't even imagine. And it, I mean, but we're 15 or 18 games in, and you're like, they're hopeful that he's going to be able to catch up again because he was such a valuable guy last year, right?
Mhm.
There hasn't been a week gone by in Vancouver that's been quiet this
Nope.
year, and sometimes it's just that way. It
Yeah.
just it just is.
I want to squeeze a couple of things in here in Tim Hortons headlines before we move on. Terry Pegula, owner of the Buffalo Bills and the Buffalo Sabres. So he goes from the elation of another Bills win in a real significant game on Sunday to making a trip to Montreal to visit with his general manager, maybe Lindy Ruff, his experienced coach as well. Probably a trip he doesn't feel that he wants to make. My
Oof.
understanding is he'll take in a few road games with the Buffalo Sabres, but he's not one of the owners that normally follows the team around, and there are many that do. They do around the NHL. Um, like I don't even know how to interpret or analyze an owner like Terry Pegula going to Montreal to meet with Kevin Adams and
Mm.
or Lindy. I mean, what is that meeting? Isn't that meeting simply, um, you got to get this thing out of the ditch, or I'm going in a different direction? I mean, and
Well,
that would be pointed to Kevin, not to Lindy, because Kevin's had the luxury of dumping Donnie Granato and other coaches.
yeah, I would. I mean, I've never been in that meeting. I'm assuming if the boss of bosses shows up, everybody's a little uneasy about why now, and um, why can or why are we talking now? And so,
Mhm.
but he shows up on the road, and Dregs, like it's not just the phone call. Hey, how are things going? Right. So there's an immediacy to this now.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, the record tells you that like things have to change. The direction or the result has to change. When you hear all the time, it's not about the results, it's about the process. It is until it's about the results. And right now they're about at the point where it's about the results. And you got to get a win somewhere, right? Like you've got to break this. And now they go into Montreal, and Montreal's been giving up goals like crazy, and like it's two teams that are pretty unsettled there, I would say. For Buffalo, this is what's this? 14 years they haven't been in the playoffs or whatever. And man, oh man, like you're testing the patience of everybody.
Yeah.
But the problem is the new players and the new coaches and yada yada. They don't have anything to do with 10 years ago or 4 years ago.
No.
A lot of them. Too bad. Now you got to dig yourself out. And the other part to this with the Sabres is they're so young, right? They don't have a lot of scar tissue, a lot of them built up. And so it's hard to look like who's the leader there.
Yeah. I mean, Zucker, Tuck.
Right? Like, do you know what I mean? Like you don't have 4 or 5 guys that are good enough to take the team and maybe turn it a bit. All their top end players are extremely young. And there's the other part about these rumors is that most of the rumors involve a player or players that are 22 years old.
Yeah.
Teams don't want to give those players up. They're just getting there. They're just getting to where they've drafted, and you wait for them to mature, and now they're just getting to maturation. Man, now's not the time to go, hey, we'd like to move these guys. Tough spot, man. Tough spot for the Sabres.
All right, full disclaimer here. How do you feel about a little clickbait on Rain Dregs?
Oh boy, I don't even know what you're talking about, but I don't even know.
The Leafs are going to hate it. The Leafs are going to hate it, but it's coming off the heels of John Tavares in his 14th career hat trick on Sunday. I mean, he's been so good in the majority of Toronto Maple Leaf games this year, right? So you're the general manager, Ray Ferraro, general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Could happen.
What's my salary? What's my salary? How am I doing?
You know what? I'm one of the owners. I'm giving you $5 schmil a year. 5 balloons. You're getting 5 balloons.
Ooh, I'd like 5 balloons. Ooh, you can do a lot with 5 balloons.
Okay, we're talking about an iconic player, and that's where I think it's fair to call John Tavares an iconic player. Some might debate it, but I'm calling. Okay, maybe he slides into post management. John Tavares in a Toronto Maple Leafs blue, dark navy blue blazer. So it also looks like he has a few good years left, right? He's 34, just turned 34, not that long ago. You can't insult him with an offer, but you also recognize you can't pay him anywhere near $11 million. So what is fair based on everything that you know about John Tavares right now? What do you think is a fair, non-insulting contract term money for Tavares?
Well, since I'm the GM,
yes, you are. Yeah.
I say, well, we're not going to talk until June because we don't have to. What if, and there's zero indication of this, what if John scores 3 goals in the second half of the year? Like at age, I would start to think about it.
Okay.
And I guess there's a couple things at play here. One is he's not a free agent per se because they're already paying him $11 million a year. It's not like they have to find money to pay him. They're actually going to save money on the cap by whatever they're going to pay him. So I think that's one determination that gets missed. Is I hear a lot of, oh yeah, but they're going to have to find this money on the cap. No, they've already accounted for it. It's whether it's going to be 6 million or 8 million or whatever it's going to be. Second part is, I think I would go to him and say, John, you'll never play a game for somebody else, but I can only give you a 2-year contract.
Mm-hmm.
And that my hope is that I've built up enough trust that I could give him an example like the late Tim Wakefield that played with the Boston Red Sox. he signed, I think, 12 straight one-year contracts. And he said, and they told him, you're never going to pitch anywhere else. And so if I'm giving John $8 million for 2 years, I'm a hell of a lot more comfortable than $8 million for 4.
Okay.
But the thing is, in 2 years, he's coming. I would want to build an outline. We think you've got X number of years left at the level that you're at. And
Right.
so I can pay you for 2 years right now. If you want 4, I can't go 4.
Yeah. And you have to have the combo, right? So, Marner's also an unrestricted free agent.
Sure.
So, if you can get those two guys in and around 21 mil, I mean, you have to feel, depending on the term of Tavares, of course.
But yeah, the term, honestly, it's not the dollars that really concern me, because I think in most cases the player and the team would come, like Tavares and the Leafs would come to an understanding of what that dollar figure would look like. I think they can get to that.
Yeah.
And I think in most cases teams can get to the money. It's the term that, and you can't bypass that and say, oh yeah, I'm not going to worry about, everyone says the last year of the contract. What if it's the last 3 years of the contract?
Agreed. Yeah.
Like, what if you're stuck with an albatross? And it's not, again, it's not specific to John. It's specific to anybody that's 35, 36, 37. The game's not getting slower.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say about John, I've been super impressed this year about the consistency of his game. Like, he seems to be getting around the ice a little more freely.
He does.
And that's the whole part of my concern. It's never his dedication. It's never his ability to shoot the puck or to want to score. It's never that. To me, it's as he gets older, is he going to be able to move around the ice? And right now, damn, it looks like he can. Man, he's had a great year. He's had a great year.
Fly in the ointment, of course, not to soft tamper here, Ray, but is always the look of unrestricted free agency. We've just quickly talked about 2 of them, but there's another guy, of course, Sam Bennett, who we know that Brad Treliving, so many general managers would covet if he gets to free agency. Can't afford everybody. So that's what makes the salary cap as challenging as it's been. So
yeah, there's going to be some names out there this year. The free agency will get interesting with the cap rise, and every player in the league thinks that money's coming to them. The cap rise, they think
it doesn't work out that way, but you're right. It
does not work out. Like there's going to be more cap space available. Oh yeah, what do you think Mikko Rantanen's going to sign for? Well, there goes a lot of the cap rise.
Good percentage there, chewed up by Colorado for
one
sure.
guy. Yeah, so it'll be interesting, but I'd still just wait on John, just till closer towards the end of the year. And to me, it would be all about the term, because I think we could get there on the money.
Excellent stuff as always. Those are your headlines. Thank you to our good friends at Tim Hortons.
Time to make tonight's picks. Oh, he is definitely a winner. Good thing it's easy and free to play.
My streak is on the line here. Fingers crossed, because it all comes down to this. I just love getting the chance to win prizes every game day.
The Tim's NHL Hockey Challenge is back. Play on game day.
All right, time for Ask Ray and Dregs. Anything Ryan Rishaug has been waiting patiently. Ask Ray and Dregs, brought to you by Acon. With over 150 years in the construction industry, Acon is one of Canada's original leaders in heavy industrial contracting. And they're always looking for good people to join the team. If you or someone you know is looking for work, go to acon.com, click Join Our Team. You will see all of the employment opportunities available. Acon, building what matters to enable future generations to thrive. There he is, the bureau chief for TSN Alberta, Ryan Rishaug. What time is it? It is 9:39 Eastern. You have 10 minutes to make this segment sing.
Sing?
How about it?
To make it hum? Dregs,
before you start, hang on, before you start, am I so like childlike of mind that every time that Acon ad comes up, I find myself turning my head. I love it. Like all the little sketches and things and the claims that come in it.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah. Zuby did a nice job with that. That's all Zuby, our technical brains,
really?
putting that amazing little animation together.
why doesn't he try harder with our stuff then? Like, Jesus, Zuby, wake up.
Hey,
He's
I
coming
watched
off
the
a
Scratch
tough-
Your Back
he's tough. What
podcast
happened
post game last night.
What happened last night? Jesus,
Yeah.
Zuby.
I watched it, and I couldn't watch it. It was like Zuby was managing with his mittens on or something. Like he was pushing buttons. Like it was. I didn't know what was going on there, Zub.
Okay, Chris, you can explain yourself. Go ahead.
No excuses. It just went off the rails, and
It was funny.
started early, and then I just couldn't get it back. I was pretty clean on the second half of the show, but the first half was
Yeah, there's a couple things here. So the funny thing was, guys, so it was the game, obviously the Oiler game, where Evan Bouchard had a tough night and made a mistake like his first or second shift, right? So Zuby comes on the show. The first thing he had to do, he screwed up. So immediately we're comparing his night to Bouchard's, and that theme just continued through the entire show. Let's just say they both had equal performances start to finish. But we love you, buddy. You always do a great job, and everything always looks sharp as can be. So
well, and always never a problem to have my name mentioned in the same sentence as an NHL player.
Evan Bouchard.
Can't be that bad.
Yeah, there you go. He made a little more money than you did last night. Okay, lots of great questions coming in on Ask R&D and Dregs. We'll do one hockey related, then a couple of goofy ones, and then we'll get you guys on your way because Dregs is in a rush. Terry in Buffalo is concerned, guys. Terry in Buffalo says, I'm worried about my squad. This season feels worse for some reason. I can't help but wonder what the players might be thinking when the owner gets involved like that. Ray, what would be going through the player's mind with their owner standing in front of them?
This can't be good. At no point do you want your owner standing in the middle of the locker room, whether it's of support or not. This might sound goofy, but you would think, he's noticed. And it puts everybody on the shakiest of ground. Whether they are or aren't, everybody feels like that's a big foot coming into the locker room. And you should be concerned because this is a hell of a lousy stretch they're in. And, it compounds upon itself. And here you are, 0-7-3, Dregs? And, not very often does the owner come in like this.
No, and in fairness here, like he has given Kevin Adams and general manager autonomy, right? He has said, all right, you want to hire this coach, you want to fire that coach, hire Lindy Ruff back, familiarity, accountability, all of that. He has given Kevin Adams full reign. So now that they're going through this stretch, winless in 10, going into Montreal, I mean, he should be riding the wave, as we talked about in the podcast, of the Buffalo Bills, because that's where a big chunk of his heart is as an owner of the Buffalo Bills and the Sabres. To get on Air Pegula, to come in to Montreal for a pep talk of management or coaching staff or leadership, that's not high on that man's list. It just isn't.
I just wonder how that conversation goes. Like, would there be a discussion about whether it was a good idea or not? Or is it like, fellas, I'm coming in. You just informing everyone and in you go.
Again, I don't know, but if I own the team and I want to come and talk to them, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
and you're going to do a lot of listening, Kevin.
Matthew Scott off of Twitter has a question for Ray. Says, Ray, how is your game day prep changed when you call a Canucks game versus when you're calling a game for ESPN? Obviously, you consistently do Canucks games, Ray, so you probably know it a little better. But what does a prep day look like on a Vancouver game day?
Way easier because really you only have to worry about prepping for one team because I watch the Canucks every day, right? I'm in the market. I live here. I see and read and talk to people on pretty much a daily basis. So that's the easy part to prep for a Canuck game. For a ESPN game, you've got two teams that you've got to go back and, I'm watching previous games. I'm culling information out, trying to talk to a few people, and it's completely different. The other part is I can drive down to the rink for the morning skate and be home in an hour and a half. It's it's just doing games at home has been amazing. I just love it.
Dregs, who's the most prepared person on the TSN panel prep wise? Like, who clearly puts in the most work for a game night?
Oh, that's a good question. It wouldn't
Gotta
be
be Poundy, hey? Like Poundy's got to be up there. She's always
Cheryl
calling
Parker's
and asking, and like Poundy's heavy into prep.
Okay, yes, no question. I will give this man the love that he deserves. He's not a consistent panelist. Frankie Corrado, former Canucks great. I mean,
You know
he's
who
right
I
up
would
there.
throw in there, Dregs, as the most prepared guy I ever worked with? Dave
Me?
Poulin. No, Dave Poulin.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Poulin.
Pooley-
And by the way,
Yeah.
how about his notes, Dregs? Oh, spectacular.
I know.
Highlighted, different colors.
Yeah, it kind of bugs me. It's like Amanda Stein, who works with the New Jersey
Outstanding
Devils, right?
penmanship. She's right on
Penmanship
it, though.
is incredible.
Yeah, but she's on it too. She just delivers it. I will say this, sitting the years I did next to Duffy and watching him, it would almost give me like stress. I will say, I think Chris Cuthbert and James Duffy are kindred spirits. Watching the two of them prep for something is like a hurricane of paper and pens and notes, and I can't find this. And I think that only speaks to how brilliant they both are, because it's honestly, I don't even really know how to describe it.
You know who
Dregs?
does no prep work? Jeff O'Neill. And that's not a that's not a but what he does is
it's not a criticism. This isn't a criticism. You don't do anything. You're the best.
No.
Just show up and DO.
He watches a ton of games, and his ability to retain, like, he's got a flashback memory when it comes to plays, not just the goals that he scored, but just he's really, like, he comes with an empty page. He sits down for our 30-minute Toronto Maple Leafs regional pregame show. Nothing. He's got nothing on there. It's hilarious, but he's excellent.
We're going to clip that and put it out and see if people feel it was complimentary.
Wow. That's true.
Honorable mention to Craig Button, who, like me, we're kindred spirits in that we are both digital note guys. So all of my notes, game notes and everything are all taken on the iPad. Craig Button does the same thing, and his notes are beautiful on his iPad. So honorable mention there.
Can I, on how beautiful your notes look? Yep. I got a letter yesterday. It was dropped off to Cammie at the Canucks office from the great Jim Robson, one of the great broadcasters of all time. And so I get this note and I open it up. He's taken a picture of his game notes of a game I played in March of 1985. We lost 6-5 to the Canucks. It was my second goal in the NHL. And he sent me I just thought it was such a really cool thing. And I don't know how Jim deciphered any of that. It's got all the goals and penalties and they're written all over the place. And it's not
That's
digital.
Cool. Yeah.
And it was really a cool thing he did. So I sent him a note, thank you, but just publicly, one of the greats, Jim Robson. That was really, really a cool thing to do.
All right, and we will wrap with this. Randy Pepler on Twitter sends us a note saying, in the Rashog, sleeping through his alarm vein. Thanks, Randy, for bringing this up. Have either Ray or Dregs ever missed or been late to something important as a result of sleeping in?
No, not sleeping in. Close late because I got lost. Yes, for sure. That's 100%. You guys know navigationally I have some issues. And like, I will say this, that after hours thing I did the other night for hockey night, there's only 2 elevators you could get on.
You got on the wrong one?
I got on the wrong one. So now I don't know where to go. So I have to go back down to the truck and start again. And they had to walk me. They had to walk me to the elevator. I got there, I don't know, 8 seconds before we started. Like, I'm like, what? The whole time up, I'm like, what an idiot. How do you? Yeah. So that I almost missed that.
Yeah, I don't have any. I don't really.
Come on. It can happen to anyone. It can happen to anyone. You must have something.
No, I mean, the closest I think that I can recall would be going back exam time in school, right? And I remember one time just really waking up in the shower, and my mom was knocking on the bathroom door, going, "What are you like? What are you doing? It's like 1:00 in the morning. Why are you showering?" And I woke up, looked at my clock, and I'm like, Jesus, I slept in. It's 1:00 in the afternoon. Just bolted out of bed, got in. I was so, I guess, stressed out from studying and exams that in my head, I thought it was 1 p.m. and I'd slept through the exam. So I was feverishly showering to then get in the car and get going.
And it was 1 in the morning.
Woke up in the shower?
It was 1:00
Didn't
in the morning.
He woke up in the shower?
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you fall asleep?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, no, I wasn't physically sleeping standing there, but I was in a brain fog. Clearly, I looked at my clock. It was 1. I went, "Oh, Jesus! I slept through the exam. I better get going." That's it. That's all I got.
And so, Ryan, I would say the fact that you did it twice in a week really brings this to the forefront.
Yeah, I took a risk in bringing this one up, but it was a good question. I thought maybe you guys would have stories that would make me feel better. No. But instead, I just end up feeling worse. By the way, Ray, I'm just... Yeah.
You know what it was? Let's just summarize it. Grossly unprofessional. That's what it was.
So speaking of grossly unprofessional, Ray, I'm the same as you, wandering around, like never knowing where I am. I'm at the World Juniors with Dave Parker in Saskatoon, and he says, "I'll meet you at the truck." So I go to the truck, and I'm sitting in the truck, and there's no Dave Parker, and I'm on my phone busy, right? And then I'm sort of agitated. I'm like, "Where are you?" He's like, "I'm sitting in the truck, meathead. Where are you?" I said, "I'm sitting in the truck." He says, "No, you're not." I look, guys, I wandered to the wrong side of the building and got into some random guy's truck because it was the same color as our rental. I was sitting in the front seat of a stranger's truck, giving Parker crap, asking him where he was. True story.
Was there
Ray,
a lunch pail there that you could dive into his sandwiches?
Oh, buddy. Ray, you and I. Ray's the guy, though, when he's on his phone, if you told him to take a hard left, he'd wander into water up to his shoulders before he knew something was wrong.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
That is 100% true.
That was Ask Ray and Dregs Anything, brought to you by our good friends at Acon Boys.
Oh, I would have loved that. Wouldn't that have been great if the owner of the truck would have popped to the other door?
Who are you?
Who the hell are you? What are you doing?
Slides by with a crowbar. All right, buddy. That's good stuff. Ask Ray and Dregs Anything, brought to us by our good friends at Acon. It's quickly developing. Look, our banter off the top is good podcast quality. That's what it is. The headlines, we have fun, we analyze, we get into the meat of the stories around the league. And then once a week, we bring in Ryan Rashog for Ask Ray and Dregs Anything. And it kind of goes off the rails, but it sort of works.
It sort of works. It does every time. I don't expect anything buttoned down when he shows up. That's for sure.
All right, buddy. What's the rest of your week like?
Well, today's the 17th. I got a game on the 21st. Really easy week, like going into Christmas.
Nice.
On the 21st, Ottawa's in town. And then on the afternoon of the 22nd, we are flying for Christmas to London. Mm-hmm. And our two boys, as I've talked about before, Riley and Reese, are big soccer guys. Reese is a Liverpool diehard supporter. So on Boxing Day, we're going to Anfield to watch Leicester and Liverpool. And obviously we've never been, and just really, really looking forward to that. So that's the week. That'll be the button on the week. So, and that's Christmas. Hard to believe. What about you? You got everything all sorted?
Yeah, we've got a couple of regional games before we celebrate the holiday season. But I'm jumping in a vehicle, my own truck, as a matter of fact. Some good friends, Jeff and Val, are moving to Muskoka from Whitby, Ontario, Canada. So we're helping them do that today and tomorrow, then back. Regional hockey. Katie and Matt are coming back from Thunder Bay on the 21st. So that's when it'll kind of kick into Christmas mode for us.
Awesome to get the kids back. So enjoy the week, Dregs. We'll talk to you Friday with Sheldon Keefe.
You bet. And Zuby, by the way, who was top notch on this podcast today.
He is. He has more focus today.
He's promising to bring his A-plus game, not just his A game for Sheldon Keefe on Friday.
Attaboy, Zuby. I like it, Zuby.
I'll get to bed nice and early on Thursday night.
Attaboy.
Excellent stuff. All right. Thanks, everybody. And thank you to our sponsors who continue to support Ray and Dregs and make the pod possible. Our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey, Tim Hortons, and Acon. Until Friday, stay safe, everybody.